Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Goddess Luvology. This is your favorite empath, intuitive Kim, the Goddess, here to bring a Let's Talk series. We're gonna call this a New Age, New Earth series because we are ushering in some newness. So first, I want to apologize that I misspoke in the previous video from earlier. If you are watching this from Instagram or Facebook. There are 7 stages of spiritual ascension, but first I wanted to start at the root, at the beginning of things, and I will work my way up so that it makes sense to everyone. And if you Google and try to research, there's a lot of saturation of information and it can be confusing. So I wanted to break it down into our terms so that it's easier to understand and easier to relate and be able to correlate and relate it to our lives and the things that are happening in our lives. So it'll make sense to us. So I pray that this video does help you, help your understanding, and I speak in a way that helps it resonate with your level of understanding, okay? So this first video, let's see if I can change this. All right, so this first video, this is the first video in a series that we are starting together called the New Age, New Earth series. If you're new to my channel, welcome, my love. Any information that you need will be down in the description box below. Anything that I forget to remember is normally pinned down in the comments. I will leave the comments open on these videos because I do want to start a discussion so that we can give our 2 cents, our positive feedback on what I'm speaking on. You may be able to share your story or share your perspective that someone else can relate to. That will also give me ideas and information on what to put in my next videos, okay? So we will break down the information and discuss how to integrate these things into our new lives. So right now, I know I told y'all it's a shift going on and the earth is literally, as I said in my last video, it's literally shifting. There have been earthquakes and all kind of things that have been going on. I've been told personally to stop micromanaging the universe, so I will stick to my light work and let God and the universe, do what they're doing on that end. So if you're wondering why, don't feel like I'm just sitting back letting certain things happen. I've been told to stop micromanaging the universe. So what's happening is humanity is being pushed into a new age and a new earth is being formed. This new age is to bring a new level of consciousness, a new way of being, a new way of living, and to restore balance and harmony to the planet. So I have my notes on my computer, so if you see me looking over here, that's why I'm looking. Let me move this so you can feel like I'm looking at you too. So I want to explain what it means to be conscious, not woke. There are different types of consciousness, and one of them, is spiritual. But today, I want to talk about how consciousness affects our individual mental, physical, and spiritual planes, which in result affects our overall as a collective mental, physical, and spiritual plane. So let's define consciousness. Consciousness is a state of being and the awareness of our own existence, sensations, thoughts, and surroundings. When we strengthen and develop our consciousness as individuals, it brings forth integration that helps humanity. And this integration brings in balance, harmony, and oneness. So oneness, it brings in balance, harmony, oneness, unconditional love, compassion, and empathy. So we receive life lessons that are tests going back to the law of relativity. We receive life lessons that are tests that place us along our spiritual path and gives us consciousness and helps us to discover our purpose. So these life lessons are to help us focus and pay attention and direct our consciousness. So they help us to ask and inquire about our life and our soul purpose. Listen and learn the language of love in the heart, then act on the answers and guidance that we receive once we understand that language. develop our inner spirit and shut out external connections that block, hinder, and quiet our internal and external voices. So it helps us to develop our own spiritual consciousness. It helps us block out those things that affect us. So basically, you know how when you meditate and you are in this state of being, and when you walk out, it's easier to recognize things that affect that happiness and that bliss within you, okay? And a lot of times those external factors can also quiet that conscious voice that we have inside. And sometimes our patterns and behavior, I'm going to get into that, can quiet that voice that we have inside, but that can also keep us from speaking our truth as well, okay? So that, let me go back. So it helps us develop our inner spirit and shut out external connections that block, hinder, and quiet our internal and external voices so that we can release fears of being judged by others. It helps us live a life that is purposeful. It helps us to clear negative ego, fears, emotional pain, and emotional pains that are centered in our lower chakras. So meditation and chakra balance are essential. That's why I'm always speaking about the chakras, and that's why I'm always telling you guys to meditate, okay? So it also helps us to be aware of the unconscious mind, the instinctual mind, and the conscious mind. So we're going to break these down, okay? So the unconscious mind is like our hard drive. It's the source of human behavior. It is where feeling, thoughts, emotions, urges, and memories that we may not be aware of are stored, okay? My notes are right here. So each of these subconscious levels of our mind are centered in a part of our chakra center in us as well, okay? Also, each of these speak on a 3D, 2D, and 1D level, and I won't get into that into this video. That'll be, I told you I got a bunch of videos that I want to do, but this is going to be the start, and this will help me segue into those other videos, okay? So let's move on to the intellectual mind, because that's the main meat of the message. So the intellectual mind is what drives our human behavior. It stores fixed patterns of behavior, like addictions and the things we do to cope. It is where we form barriers due to unresolved painful memories that manifest in the ego. It creates a wall that separates our inner spirit, and it isolates the ego inside of us. This separation causes us to deeply detach to a false belief system that is generated by that negative emotions and that negative ego. So basically, if something bad happens to you and you tell yourself that you are bad, those emotions become our false belief system. We begin to believe those things, okay? So when we experience this separation, we become heartless, where we disconnect from our heart and our inner spirit. Disconnecting from your inner spirit creates additional walls, barriers, and separation. So basically, each time we experience something traumatic, there are more walls and barriers and separation. And we develop personalities that numb or protect that very inner spirit. So y'all remember the movie Split? I don't know if you watched the movie Split, and you see how, it's schizophrenia at a lower level. There's levels to everything, okay? So for some people, those personalities actually develop into external personalities when those walls and barriers become real thick. And some of us, it just stays in our subconscious, in our subconscious mind, okay? So what happened with him is each time he went through a traumatic experience at a certain age, he developed a personality to help protect his inner being, so that he didn't have to experience that again. So if you notice that every time a girl or somebody triggered something within him, then a different personality would come out, and that was the personality that was developed to protect that other personality, okay? And it just becomes a ripple effect. So we each go through something So when we go through something and we don't process it correctly and deal with it head on, it gets buried deep inside us. That part of us that experienced that trauma goes into a cave, and a new personality is developed to protect us from experiencing that trauma and pain again. Basically what I just said. So the more we numb, the more personalities we develop. And each sub-personality holds a fragment of our spiritual energy. So it's like we break ourselves apart into these little pieces subconsciously. So when we separate the ego and the emotions, we have these houses of ego inside of us. And these houses are unworthiness. That's number one. The second one is shame and guilt. The third one is lack of trust and self-doubt. The fourth one is betrayal and abandonment. The fifth one is anger and rage. The sixth one is fear. And the seventh one is entrapment and enslavement. So when we experience something, part of our light goes into one of these houses. And the dark side, the opposite, remember, everything has an opposite. That dark side, the light side goes into this cave, into this house, and the dark side emerges. And then it's like, let me keep going. As we build these walls and barriers to this house of ego from ignorance, we allow the opposite energy. So if your light part is going in, what you think is coming out? Okay. So, or the equivalent demonic spirit is exactly the spiritual psychological word for it, dwells inside our mind or our body. So we let that's what comes out. And these spirits and forces strengthen and they guard these barriers. So when we enter into, and that's where we enter into a mental and spiritual bondage, because we are now a prisoner to that dark force or spirit that we let come out because we put our light inside of this cave. So they stand guard to block you from trying to get back in. So that's where the true meaning of having to fight your demons comes from. And it's not necessarily fighting them, it's bringing them back into submission, because you do need them, and that's another video, okay? The goal of the oppressors is to create these fragments of our mind and inner spirit, because it disconnects us from God and our spiritual self. So we got to learn how to react without being reactive, because I keep telling y'all, a lot of things are going on because they're letting it go on. They want it to go on. It's a part of the game. What I just told y'all, the goal of the oppressor is to create these fragments of our mind and our inner spirit, because it disconnects us from God and our spiritual self. The result is more pain, more disconnection, more destruction, and even disease. So all of these things strengthen these walls and keeps the cycle of misery going. So the goal of the inner work and inner spirit is to find these subconscious personalities, find a way to get past these guards and these walls and barriers that we build up, so that we can reclaim them, and so that we can heal them and reclaim them as children of light, love, and God. Okay? So that spiritual light, just a moment, so that spiritual light can be regenerated and connection with God or the divine can be restored. So our conscious mind is the center of awareness, where our objective thinking mind dwells. So when we go through these life lessons and experiences, our awakened conscious mind will know how and where to process them. We will know not to put them in one of these houses that already has this thick wall and barrier up, where it's going to be lost and it's going to take a whole lot to break it down and to fight, to get it back. So ascension is basically transcending our old limits and beliefs and mindsets and way of being to a place where we do like spiritual mental alchemy, where we learn how to turn all of this these traumatic events and emotions into something good, and we learn how to channel it into something good. So that's why spiritual ascension is very important, because it teaches us how to transcend. It brings us into a new way of thinking, a new way of believing, and a new way of just being, period. So I hope that this, kind of explained that to you. If you have anything to add, please drop it down below. I was trying to do this work and she in virtual school, but I'm basically homeschooling her. Cheyenne too, and I kept getting interrupted. So all right, sorry. So I hope that this explained a lot to you as far as what is going on inside of us and around us. Remember that our inner reality reflects our outer reality. So please drop down in the comments, share your positive thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video. I want you to be blessed and stay blessed, because you are blessed. Ashe.